In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the IOsetup page in Pro Tools. To get to that, you simply go to Setup, IO. Now there are 6 main tabs to here. The Insert, Mic Preamps and Hardware Insert Delay tabs we'll be looking at in the advanced videos. For now, we're going to concentrate on the main 3, the input, output and bus. Now a quick and easy way to get a default setup is to just go to each of these tabs in turn, select everything and press default. I'm going to get a bit of an error message if I do this one because my 2 tracks I have here are using the output path 1, 2, and I'm about to delete it, and when I press delete we'll see that these will then grey out. This won't be an issue if you haven't started your session yet though. Now I'll hit default again and we'll do the same on the bus page. And this gives a nice simple default layout that should match the number of inputs and outputs you have on your interface. We can customize these. The input page simply tells me that I have 2 inputs on my interface, input 1, input 2. And if I click on this little disclosure triangle, you can see that they are set to configured as either a stereo pair, which are called input 1, 2, or I can use them as individual mono inputs. You could try and change the channel configurations from here. I won't because, well, you don't need to do much here unless you're dealing with surround sound tracks. But I will rename these 2. At home I usually have my main mic plugged into input 1. And I usually have a guitar or bass DI'd into input 2. And this labeling will just make life a little bit clearer later on. The output page gives me a similar kind of idea. It tells me that the 2 outputs of the interface are 2 stereo pairs. You can see here's output 1, 2, which is using the first 2 outputs of the interface, and fairly obvious with output 3, 4. Although it is possible to rename your output page, I tend to leave this as it is by default and use buses instead for the naming. Now we have 128 buses here, labelled 1 to 128, in addition to a couple of other stereo buses up here. Now in essence these are identical to the rest of them. It's just they have been named automatically to the same names as the outputs in this tab, and they have been automatically assigned to those outputs. So I have 2 outputs, we saw them here, output 1, 2, output 3, 4, and that's what we can see referred to here. And these are the buses that are feeding those outputs, and they've just taken their names from them. I'm actually going to customize these names. Output 1, 2 I'm going to be using for my left-right mix, and output 3, 4 I'm going to be using for my cues or headphone mixes. So all I've done is rename these 2 stereo buses, and the bus that's renamed now left-right mix you can see is mapped to output 1, 2, and the bus that's been named cues is mapped to output 3, 4. I could make any of the buses map to outputs. Just click on the little tick here, and now you can see bus 1, 2 is also feeding output 1, 2, and I could change this from here to feed output 3, 4. I don't need to do this today, but it helps to understand exactly what's going on in this tab. A couple of other things to note. We have audition paths. So if I'm importing audio and I want to preview it, I'll need to set an audition path. And we can choose the default output bus for mono tracks and stereo tracks accordingly. And if of course I had up to 7.1 surround sound configured, these would all be there as well. You're unlikely to need to change this unless you are doing surround sound work. I can now save my I/O setup. We go to export settings here, and I'll call this Elaform. And this will place it into your I/O settings folder, and you can see this is inside my applications, Avid, Pro Tools, and then there's the folder inside here. You can take those with you as well. The I/O settings information is also encoded into the session itself. And it's now possible to import settings. If I do import settings, this is done on a tab by tab basis. So I could import just the input settings, and this would still leave the outputs and buses the same as they were. To do this, you just need to click import, choose the one you want, and press open. But I'm pretty happy with the way this is set up now. So we'll click on the OK button, and we'll have a look at how this has affected my two tracks. I've got a mono track here and a stereo track here. If we look at the outputs of these are currently grayed out, and this is because we deleted their outputs earlier. So I'm going to reassign these to output 1, 2. Now to affect all of the tracks at once, hold the Option key, click and choose output, left right mix. And we can see this is the name of the bus, left right mix, and left right mix is assigned to go to output 1, 2 on the interface. If we look at the available options for the inputs of the mono track, they are mic and DI, and on the stereo track they are just input 1, 2. So this whole configuration, the same principle will apply regardless of how many ins and outs you have on your interface. So in the next video we'll be taking a look at an overview of the Pro Tools edit page.